Hey guys, welcome back to a conversation between two people that are way too into guitar. It's been a little bit, and you can see some things have changed. We have Joseph, and he has a mustache.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about that?
No, I'm just, life is great. Honestly, since I shaved my beard, everything, we're up, we're up. Like, baby, we're up, everything's going great.
Yeah, everything. It's a sign the economy is booming.
That's right.
And we are doing really
I'm
great.
bullish
I'm also
on
in a new
mustache.
space. Yeah, bullish on mustache, yeah. I'm also in a new space, and I've got a big window here, so lots of natural light. But yeah, so we're here to talk about some more guitar things. And yeah, how have you been, Joseph?
I've been good. Honestly, that conversation about practice we did last time has caused me to practice somehow. So I've been shedding different stuff and improvising a lot. But yeah, so I think what we are planning to talk about right now is like chord progressions and voicings and sort of how we individually approach these, maybe in a context of having to come up with different chord progressions, but also how one might voice these chord progressions, because that does, that has some implications. So
yeah, I definitely get a lot of questions about choosing chords and like building chord progressions, because it's such a general topic that like I like to have some, I guess, tools that I use to kind of like force myself to be creative, maybe, or like there's certain ways that I like to come up with chord progressions. That's I don't know, because it's easy to just be there's too much freedom, and like there's too much, you can do whatever you want. So I find that having some kind of path to come up with chord progressions is really helpful for myself, at least.
Well, I think like a lot of people get frustrated because they come up with similar chord progressions all the time, right? They have trouble like coming up with new, fresh ideas. And I think that's, the sort of perpetual, like, oh, I've done this before, is kind of an ever-present feeling for the rest of forever. So that's fine. But there are some tricks that you can kind of like think of to kind of reinvigorate like your creativity and come up with fresh things. And the first thing I would always tell people to do is, if they hear a chord progression that is interesting to them, to immediately figure out what it is. Right? Because then you can, if you figure that out, if you figure out that you like the sound of, hip thing number 34, you can sort of analyze it and then figure out what it is and put it in different keys and maybe use it in your own compositions, because there's only so many chord progressions, so you can't, there's nothing wrong with stealing chord progressions. And
Right.
it can also inspire slightly different chord progressions. I've certainly stolen my fair share of chord progressions.
Yes. I know there's like lawsuits about that, but it's kind of ridiculous.
You can't copyright chord progressions. Like, very specifically, whenever people get into lawsuits about you stole my songs, it has to specifically be about more than the chord progression. Like, I think there's a precedent for that. But because like, dude, like, that's why there's so many 4-chord songs. You know what I'm saying? Like this, like I have I have a tune, an older Bird Problem tune. And at the end of it, it's in Cold Turkey. I just copped this pop chord progression because I thought it was like, it just kind of tickled like, the right hairs on my arms or whatever. And it's nothing like special. I just thought like it was cool when I heard it, and so I stole it. But I voiced it like in a pretty different way, and put it in a different key and whatnot,
Yes.
and it just sort of worked out. But I imagine.
So what do you mean by, like, what are the steps that you take to go from like a normal, not normal, but like a pop chord progression and turn it into your own sound?
When I heard this tune, it was pretty simple, right? It was kind of in whatever key, and it was flat 6, 7, 5, flat 6 in sort of like a minor key. So the chord progression is this. It's E major that I voiced with some Yeah, exactly like that. And then I got an F sharp major. I made it a major sixth because it's a triad. And then a D sharp minor, which I voiced with the fifth in the bass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another E major with the fifth in the bass.
Yeah.
And you know, like, this isn't particularly hip. I just thought it was sort of impactful when I heard it, and I was like, damn, like, this is kind of hitting. So I stole it. But, you know, this applies to any other chord progression that might be like more interesting and more hip, you know, like if you sort of learn what it is and you just figure out like how you could apply it to different keys, all of a sudden you have more to pull from in your vocabulary of chord progressions. And this is kind of it's kind of like a bit of a shortcut when the long way would be to just explore things until you find pretty things, which, you know, is worth it, but that takes a lot of time, and it's easy to fall into patterns that you've played before.
Yeah. I do. I like that chord progression. It's nice. There's like it's like building up.
Exactly. That's why I got it, because at the point in this song, it's like a really soaring sort of ending, like beautiful melody. So I just copped it. You know, I purchased the chord progression. You know, it was just in the shopping cart. But if you hear something spicier, right? Like if you hear something more interesting, like, I don't know. Let's see. What is this that I've been doing recently? Right, sort of different passing chords that might be interesting. All you have to do is learn it from the song, and then you kind of analyze it in whatever way you are able to, and then you can use it in different contexts. Yeah, that's what I do. So I basically steal from other people.
Oh, that's the advice, is steal from other people. Yeah, I like that.
What I've been saying is purely like chord function based. All the way to voice it would be like a separate consideration.
Yes. So as far as like chord progressions, I don't know, I've been trying to avoid like the things that have already been done a million times. Not that anything I'm playing is like chordal wise that unique, but like I usually avoid like basic chord progressions that happen a lot in pop. But like I guess some ways that I like to start finding chord progressions is like, my favorite way is like using almost like a pedal tone kind of thing. Like I did it a lot in Chronostasis. There's like that ending part, which the entire thing has this open G in it, where I'm like, and it's kind of like, it's a parallel, like the chord stays the same, the shape stays the same the whole time, except that G is happening in all of them.
Yeah. But so when I see that, what I see is I see C minor, E flat major 7.
Yes.
And then G minor. Right? So that's, to me, I see that, and it's more like the way to voice it was the inspiration to come up with this chord progression that otherwise on the surface might not be like enticing if I just told you that it's like 1 3 5.
Yeah, and there's a 4 at the end there. So like 1 3 5 4 is like probably the most basic thing you could come up with. But I think what makes it sound interesting is that that open G that's happening, and then also every chord is voiced the same except for that open G.
There's no third in any of them. Which is, that to me, that's what stands out to being cool, because if I forget the G for a second, right, it kind of gives it this open, ambiguous sound. Right, so having the third be ambiguous kind of opens it up harmonically, and you can either deduce the function from what's around it, or you can kind of take complete control. And in Chronostasis, you definitely kind of leave it like ambiguous. There isn't like extra lead happening. But you could be an asshole if you wanted to over these chords. You know, it could very easily be like, but that's not
Right.
what it is.
I just liked the sound of it, keeping it ambiguous. Like, yeah, you could definitely do the whole playing whatever you want on top of it, which maybe would work for a different song.
I'm not saying the point is to play whatever you want and thus be a dick. I'm just saying, like, because it's ambiguous, that has its own sound. I also really like these sorts of more airy, open voicings. It's very cool.
The point that I wanted to hit on was using some kind of common note in between all the chords. Because you can, obviously that one works with or without the common note because it's all just like diatonic, simple. But you can do it with stuff that's maybe not as related to each other. And just like if you keep that common tone, I think it ends up sounding all related in some kind of way. You know, like if I have like this, I can go like...
Absolutely. It kind of holds your hand through it, right? It guides your ear. You know, it's like...
yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
Like if you had a chord progression that didn't have that common tone and it was more disconnected and unrelated, I think the only way to pull it together would be to have a melody that somehow, you know, draws a sort of a line through all these changes to kind of pull the ear. That's kind of what makes it put together. But I agree with you, like this sort of thing, like... What else do I got? But yeah, like it's I think what ends up happening a lot with that, it ends up being modal borrowing slightly. But it doesn't really matter what the analysis is at the end because what pulls it together is the common tone.
I find that it helps me write chord progressions, like, because even we're not thinking about analysis here, right? Like it's just, I'm like, write a chord progression. And it's like, I don't even know where to start. For me, sometimes doing the thing of, okay, I'm just going to write a chord progression. All these chords are going to have like this high E in it. Mm-hmm. And that kind of like helps me be creative within the confines of that rule.
Yeah, it's the inspiration guide, what am I trying to say? The constraints drive inspiration.
Yeah, I've definitely mentioned that before on like my channel, but it's something that I still very much stand by.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if I just open up a DAW and I'm like, write something, nothing happens.
That's like 90% of my opening DAW experience.
Nothing happens. Yeah. I like the idea of having the guitar part and like the chords almost, it's not even chords. It's like you have a bass line that's happening and then you have a guitar line that's happening. Mm-hmm. And then like that's what creates the section. Because you could do like like have like something like that just on repeat. And then the bass is going like, you know, so it's not so much, I mean, I guess you could start analyzing it as chords, but in my own head, I personally don't think about it in chords.
Yeah, that'd be pretty modal, and it would sort of amount to maybe one or two chords depending on what the bass is doing. But yes, that stuff is really, really cool. It just also opens up like the how you would lead different things. Like if I'm playing a B minor, and then I want to do, so this is B minor 9, like a one chord. And then maybe I want to do this sort of a C Lydian thing. So very popular sort of modal thing. I could go, oops. Right?
Yeah.
So these are rootless
Yes.
voicings now, but I'm kind of creating interesting movements between these chords.
Yeah. Do you want to, real quick?
Yeah, what I mean by rootless voicings is quite literally like I'm not playing the root, right? I'm playing, if I'm thinking of this as a B minor idea, I'm playing the minor third, the 11, and the 9. So what would give more context to this being a B minor would probably be the rest of the band or the bassist. And in most situations as a guitarist, because you have to kind of, I only have 4 fingers in a limited amount of notes I can play per voicing. It's good practice to play either a third and a 7 or either, and then color tones. But you can be more ambiguous if you want. I could it wouldn't be that weird for me to go like as a B Dorian idea, but it's very ambiguous now.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends, But to sort of wrap up like what you're saying, like the harmony that's happening is like an idea, and how you decide to do the harmony on your instrument is kind of a separate consideration, right? Like your guitar part is just a way to sort of make the harmony happen, but the harmony is a simple idea that kind of remains the same regardless of what guitar part you're going to write over that, right? So that's why we're getting to this idea that we can have these simple harmonic ideas that are really interesting because of how they're orchestrated on the guitar. And then we can have these very cool harmonic ideas that are very boring because of how they're orchestrated on the guitar.
Yes.
Right. I'm personally pretty bored of some modal borrowing stuff that happens all the time. So the way to make it more interesting is about the voicing on the guitar and the interplay between the different instruments and all that sort of stuff. You can always bring new life into an idea that you've used before or that is overused just by the way you approach it.
Right. Yeah. And like using this stuff as a writing tool, like for example, having one section that has like that common tone, that like maybe like a high E note, and then the next section completely breaks that.
Yep.
And like it's very disconnected. And then because you did that intentionally, you can like, okay, this part the listener is feeling very connected, and this next part it's like disorienting and like I don't know what's happening kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's like using these tools as a songwriting like intentional thing.
Absolutely. Contrast is what makes it all worth it. Hi, thanks for watching. If you didn't know, we're splitting these episodes between Josh and my channel. So if you are missing some of these, you go check out Josh's channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.